With Sri Lanka celebrating 74 years of independence, it may be good for us to take a step back and reflect on whether the country has really progressed after independence. We've been through a war and insurgencies, bombs and carnage, and the biggest protracted conflict of nearly 30 years has left this country embraced in a negative peace, the absence of overt violence. There's social unrest resulting from COVID-19 and the economic fallout. Into this equation steps in a peace and reconciliation activist, Kabir, who has embarked on a documentary to create awareness and understanding of Sri Lanka's post-independence history, the journey of a democracy, the Sri Lankan story. So I caught up with Sarah in our studio to find out more. Sarah, good to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
This documentary, I think, is going to be a handful for you. What was the key reason that made you actually delve into Sri Lanka's post-independence history?
So I think it's two interconnected sort of reasons. One is working on reconciliation and sort of seeing the repetitions of the same sort of cycles of violence even in the post-war era, and also discriminatory policies, and realizing that this was largely because a lot of us don't have an understanding of our post-independence history, and so we're kind of okay with seeing the same mistakes happening. And this ties into the other reason. Our history curriculum really leaves all of this out in the education at the school level. And I felt that, if it's not being done at the national level, at least to try and do something. I mean, there's a lot of academic work being done, I have to say, but very little do mainstream people engage in those debates. So I thought of trying to do something if it's not being done at the macro level.
So what has been the process of actually putting it together, very briefly?
In a nutshell, I think in 2016, I sort of started imagining this idea and sort of daydreaming about it. 2020, just before COVID happened, I met with Raw Media about a smaller video. Happened to discuss this with them and they really liked it, and we sort of decided to collaborate, and that was the beginning of the project. The biggest sort of defining process of the project, I would say, is liaising with about 40 or 50 different academics, having continuous chats with them, getting their readings and sort of immersing myself in it. It was pretty much, I can relate this to like doing a master's. It was like just studying Sri Lanka's post-independence history. And from there, I mean, it's what really sort of gave the outline of this project. And now we are in production, the fun part, doing the field work. I should say we've got Udan Fernando as well, who's collaborating with us now, who's helping with the scripting part of the project as well.
So you mentioned over 40 academics, experts, civil society members that you're interviewing. What has been your key finding in these conversations with them?
I think that history is not black and white, that it really comes down to interpretation. If I wanted to prove a point that I wanted to today, I could use a bit of history, and someone else could prove a completely different point with that same bit of history. So one of the biggest learnings I had from this was to really be open-minded when you're looking back at our past. Read as much as you can on a particular topic, and also try to understand where the writer comes from, like their stand, their position, because all of that goes into the writing of history. So yeah, that, it's very down to interpretation. It's very grey.
Now, running parallel to your documentary, you are also going to have a website with some 50 interviewees, clips on that website. What was the objective of actually having that website and putting these interviewees clips on that?
So the website actually will have longer cuts of the interviewees plus additional interviewees to those who are in the documentary. And the documentary is only a 1.5 hour to 2 hour maximum. So the website will actually sort of dive deeper into the topics, because we don't have much space in the documentary as much as we'd like to. So I think the website is for a different sort of audience, for people who are like research students, civil society, people who are already engaged in these topics. So it's a few layers beneath the documentary.
So what is your end objective in this whole exercise?
Non-recurrence. So I feel like we tend to keep making the same mistakes even in the post-war era, and I feel if we have an understanding of our history, there's more of knowledge when we're forging a better sort of future for Sri Lanka. You need to know where you come from as a nation to really be able to understand where you want to go. So that's one of it, and I have to say, I mean, this is a stretch, but maybe put some pressure to change the history curriculum at the school level.
Thank you, Sarah. I just hope your end objective is met.
I hope so too.
Knowing where we come from is one way to learn from our mistakes, and by making a change in our history curriculum a priority, we might be taking a step in the right direction. We, of course, live in hope. Kaleidoscope with Savithrirodrigo is on multiple digital channels. Do subscribe or follow us.
World of risks and obstacles, we are there to help you reach your goals. With 12 billion rupees worth of customer benefits in 2020 and a life insurance fund worth over 100 billion rupees. Our strength is your strength. You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.